the Marus of this world, the Serals in these tournaments, and to see that repeating that experience was very difficult. He was incredibly crushed in his performance at Atlanta, and he's done a lot of rebuilding since then. But standing in his way in the top left side of Oceanborn, a Zerg player from Italy with so much confidence behind him. Let's see if he can get back on top. In the top left side of the map, everybody put your hands together for Reynor!
And at the bottom right side, looking to recapture the magic, the former world champ. Let's welcome Oliveira.
I love the way the desk set up this match, talking about that big quarterfinals match, which is on the road to Oliveira winning that world championship. It went down to the wire. It was incredibly close. And I think one thing I always think about as well is the tactical pause. Oliveira was like, look, Reynor was getting out of control. He was vibing, but I felt like he was trying to rush. He really wanted to just finish it. He was like, go, 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 every lobby. He wanted to keep going. He was riding a high. I was playing a little bit off. I needed that bathroom break. And he said, you know, I just took that quick bathroom break. Just that little interruption in Reynor's momentum. I slowed everything down. And he managed to completely change the momentum in that series from being down way behind. And that's something which, you know, it's something that doesn't get talked about much, but it was a very clever move for him and something which I think was really intelligent. And that, of course, is the frantic Reynor we know, that guy who, if he gets the confidence going, it's very scary. And I think Oliveira is going to do everything he can to avoid playing into Reynor's hands.
And Reynor's going to have to use all of these mental tricks, I think, if he wants to defeat Reynor in this series. You see right there on screen, trying to overcome his demons. Oliveira here in the quarterfinals, the lowest win rate of all players thus far coming in from the regionals versus Zerg.
Wow.
Just barely cresting 50%, and now here he is up against Reynor, who is undeniably one of the best Zergs of this generation in the world right now, today, in a quarterfinal match with so much on the line.
To be fair, on Oliveira's side, with that statistic, he plays in a region which has very few Zergs. And that's where you get your easiest matches, is in your regionals, right? So when he's playing, it's you know, online in international cups, versus Dark, versus Solar, versus Reynor, versus Dark. It's these top Zergs he's running into for the most part. So I gotta say, that's that. As you know, hard as that seems for Oliveira, there is a little bit of a redemption there when you look at the details of who those matches are against.
Yeah, third command center coming in relatively quick here for Oliveira. Notably, not going for the Bjorn-esque 2 Barracks Reaper opening. This is a little bit more greedy. Just the one Reaper here. Getting some pressure done, and then very fast Hellions I'm expecting to be the follow-up here for Oliveira.
I like a classic opening. You know, the 2-Rax Reaper is good. Its main advantage is denying creep, right? It's slowing down that kind of explosion of the creep, and I guess to be fair, that's what you're worried about with Reynor, right? He became famous back in 2021 in the online circuit because he revolutionized the dual queen groups, where he'd have 3 different queen control groups, 1 defending the main from air, 2 out front, and he pushes creep forward. And just no other Zergs up to that point had split their queens up this much, and his creep would get outside his opponent's base by like minute 8. I remember there was games where Maru was like, is that creep going into my third? And it was like, oh my lord, like, it was just disgusting how good Reynor was at that. Since then, of course, the Terrans have learnt how to pick off those queens if they get exposed, how to dart in around and try to slow things down. But Reynor, known for being all-consuming on the map. And if he gets a small edge in Zerg versus Terran, he'll cover the map in creep, he'll get to 85, 90 drones, and he becomes just an absolutely swarmy, ridiculously powerful Zerg.
It's because of talent like that Reynor showcased that really changed the meta of TVZ in the modern StarCraft II era. Now you watch Terrans play, and oftentimes they will go for pushes that are not designed to get big damage done. Not designed to kill a ton of queens, get a lot of drones, but just to control the creep spread of the Zerg, prevent them from getting map control through the vision, through the speed, to set up for later timing attacks. And that's kind of what Oliveira is doing right now with these Hellions, with this one Reaper, with the Banshee opening, one of the most classic TVZ openers in StarCraft II, is he's controlling the creep spread. But despite that still, despite these 4 Hellions on the map, despite the Reaper joining them, you can see Reynor with these multiple control groups, as Pig is mentioning, slowly but surely, consistently spreading these tumors all across the map.
Very nicely done. Armory's coming in interesting for Oliveira.
Oh, wow.
You know, Gumiho did have success against Reynor with delayed Hellbat timings. He had a really late Hellbat battlecruiser timing, I think it was, one game, and some other kind of bizarre ones. So definitely something which he might be thinking about here. It could just be for an awkward follow-up mech transition. But yeah, this is looking like just a giant Hellbat Banshee attack, right?
I don't think it's gonna be mech. I mean, Sim coming in is just such a big telegraph that it must be bio. Now 2 barracks, of course, following up. But I wonder exactly how this is gonna go, because when I think about these early pushes with Hellbats, I usually think about them being stopped by huge masses of queens. And I'm wondering if the Cloak Banshees in this situation, their role is not to snipe drones, but rather to add the DPS that those Hellbats need and mess up the target fire on those queens to allow the Hellbats to really dominate on the ground.
Oversteer's already morphing in the front. He needs Banelings though. Reynor needs those Banelings. He sees the Hellbat morph. He will lose the 4th hatchery, but I don't know if he minds too much. It's everything else that's going to matter. Oh, he no cancels. Wow, slight mistake there. Banelings are morphing. Only 3 Banelings so far. Very passive from Reynor. And interestingly, Oliveira doesn't overcommit. It's surprising to see someone go so hard on Hellbat just for the cancel of the 4th base. Is that going to be worth it? Only time will tell.
Yeah, with a delay coming out on the Banshees too. I mean, he wasn't out on the map as quickly as he possibly could have been with those Banshees. I thought for sure he was going to try and pick off some of these queens with that added DPS, but instead, no. Playing it nice and safe. And what exactly? Oh, is it the Ling? I actually missed what happened here. That's an odd location for the orbital to be flying in from.
Yeah, that's yeah, I'm not sure. A bit of a misclick here or there. Something weird happened.
Yeah,
but it's gonna
I could go back in time and see that. I am so curious right now. My curiosity has peaked.
The replay. We got to get that replay in the reel from the secondary kind of picture-in-picture observer that we've got set up over there. We'll find out, no doubt, later on. But Baneling speed, 1-1 upgrades. Reynor's got 72 drones. His creep's getting out there. It does feel like he's a bit ahead of the curve. Yeah, Oliveira's got a very fast 4th command center, though, and I think that is, of course, potentially huge, right? Oliveira is clearly planning to play to the late-game turtle stage. This is something Reynor notoriously dislikes and has disliked for a long time. I mean, think of the game versus Spirit in the regionals about a year ago, where he literally was like dropping question marks and going, really, this is all you're going to do? And Spirit was like, well, I'm winning, aren't I? And Reynor was like, well, yeah, but in the most frustrating way possible. And everyone was like, that's it, man. Hey, if the late game works, then the late game works. You know, you've really got to do what works in StarCraft. And Maru famously has beaten Reynor many times by just forcing it to the end game, getting lots of command centers and planetaries, and saying, hey, you make a play. I'm not going to step on creep and let you swarm me. Heck no, you have to play late game, buddy.
It's a hard style to execute as Terran, but if you can do it successfully, I mean, on paper, it is not nearly impossible for Zerg to actually remain cost efficient. So as long as you get it to split map versus split map, that is a path to victory in TVZ almost always, because of how efficient the Terran army can be. Zerg is more explosive, it's more swarmy, it requires a lot of resources and a strong economy to keep going. Terran, they can play a bit more passively, and with Oliveira, as you said, going for that really fast 4th command center, now transforming into a planetary at the 6 o'clock position. He's adding in drilling claws. He's continuing siege tank production. He's even getting vehicle weapons started already here at the 8-minute mark, as well as 2-2. This is him setting up in what could be a very defensive posture. That doesn't mean that Oliveira is not necessarily going to attack. But should he decide to stay at home and try to play for that endgame, it absolutely is in the cards.
So those tanks from the high ground now. I love this ridge on Oceanborn. Moving into the middle ground, this low ground area, that's really awkward with tanks because you can get flanked. But the tanks on the ridge behind the rocks, I mean, that's always an excellent position to hang out. And this way you can clear the creep, start to push back, and a 5th command center does start. So yeah, Oliveira, I was wondering if he was just going to go hard on the aggression off a 4-base setup, but with a 5th command center, sensor towers going down, this really does look like Oliveira wants to play the long game. Now, Reynor is interestingly going for a Hydra Den. Lingbane still skirmishing at the front, trying to keep his creep spread forward. But I do wonder, is this just going to be Viper, Lingbane, Hydra as like a flexible mobile army that kind of runs in, blows up a planetary, pulls back, goes and hits somewhere else? Or are we going to maybe see like Lurker Nidus try to pop up in the back at the same time?
It could be Lurker Nidus, but I think much more what you said before. It's going to be Lings, Banelings, and Hydras trying to keep the Terran under control, because Reynor right now, he's playing a very high drone style. 95 drones right now. He's expanding across the map to the top right, to the bottom left, taking control over effectively everything soon. I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw more hatcheries go down, whereas Oliveira, he's building all these extra sensor towers. He's making some pushes into the center, but really just to exert map control and start trading efficiently, not to go for killing blows. And so if I'm looking at this game from Reynor's perspective, I'm thinking I need to have a high economy, I need to max out, I need to flesh out these upgrades, get 2-2, get Adrenal, and then I need to start trying to kill the planetary and dampening the gas income of the Terran to stop them from reaching that end game ghost mech which almost feels inevitable with the way that Oliveira is playing, now adding in an extra factory.
Yeah, the mass command centers as well. If you can start keeping the Terrans small before they get up to like 8 orbital command centers, stop them getting to the Iron Bank, that'll be big. You also want to mine these middle bases before the Terran gets too deep on the map. Reynor's very aware of this. He talks about this a lot. Talked about this when he was actually on the analysis desk before Cheryl played against Maru in the Katowice finals. He said the secret to beating late game Terran is mining out their resources on their side of the map.
And you see that right there. He's already mining about the 2 o'clock expansion. So once that hatch rate gets up, and also this CC's taking a lot of damage. You got to lift that one up. Oliveira is the Ling and Bailing now coming in. We'll be able to deal with some of this bio. Nice Widow Mine shots, but really, I'm waiting for all of these things to start to come together for Reynor. And by the way, look at this. Seismic Spines. Lurker range attack upgrade coming in. And once that comes through, I think you might be right about that Nidus canal. It could be a way to kind of crack the shell of Oliveira, and right on cue, there it is.
Exactly as you said it there. Now, I like these skirmishes aren't too bad for either side. The units lost tab is something we do want to check in, because this is a game where neither side's committing 100%. These are small skirmishes, but you can already see about a 3,000 resource lost advantage for Oliveira. Now, obviously, you're going to mine a bit less, like overall resources on the map as Terran usually, and you spend a lot more money on infrastructure, so you do need to be much more cost efficient to win the game. Being ahead this amount is kind of standard for this moment in the game.
Absolutely is. Reynor coming in once again. Is going to be able to take out the planetary fortress with the cracklings on the right side, as well as some siege snakes and bio going down. So a pretty good trade, actually. Look at Oliveira's supply. Plummet to 148, and it is so important for Terran to get Gas Geysers number 9 and number 10 online if you want to play this Ghost Mech style. He is going for Ghost Cloak. He's adding in Liberators, double factory siege tanks. He has Reactored, Widow Mines coming onto the field. Ghost production is coming in, 3-3, all of these mechanical upgrades. All these things require a lot of gas pig, and as long as Reynor could just play this high eco style, those Banelings.
No.
High eco style, 90 plus drones, consume the map and prevent Oliveira from taking a 5th base, he will have this game won. Oliveira needs to try to find a way to secure this 5th base expansion and remain cost efficient. Reynor, his job is to try and stop it with another attack coming in.
Lots of Zerglings on the front line, not a lot of Marines. Hell, that's the Widow Mines in here. Only a sprinkling of these anti-Zergling units, and that's the weak spot Reynor keeps finding. There's a lot of tanks, good amount of Marauders, there's Ghosts in there, great units to counter Hydras, but he doesn't have enough to deal with the Zerglings. And now with a Nidus in the back as well, you can see he's getting stretched in all directions. He needs to re-center his defense on that top side, but he also needs to cover his main. Now that the Nidus is being shown, this is where Oliveira needs to commit to shutting it down, which means getting rid of this Overseer and building turrets on the edge of the map to make sure that never happens again. Because the distraction this causes can be game-ending. This is so difficult to deal with as a Terran. You've got to get rid of that Overseer and that Nidus in the 3rd base.
Yeah, I think Sim units coming down to the 3rd right now should be able to defuse that, but Reynor's going to use that as an opportunity to strike again at the 5th. This time, Lurker's coming in, Blinding Cloud on the planetary and the siege tanks, but with those Ghosts there in the front line and the Banelings defuse, Reynor should retreat. Snipes coming through. A lot of Lurkers go down.
Nice snipes there. Oh, is that another Nidus in the main, though? Uh-oh, it's almost up. Lurkers are in there, ready to go. That Changeling, it was the Changeling from the earlier round. Defending pretty well, though, is Oliveira. He actually gets rid of it. As long as he gets rid of the Changeling, another Nidus on the low ground. I mean, Reynor's doing everything he can to distract Oliveira. However, he's not mining the middle bases just yet. Reynor's doing really good offensive trades. He's picking off tanks, but he's not mining either of the central bases.
Yeah, and he almost needs to stop the 5th base from getting up or take those bases on the side. You need one of those as a win condition here as Reynor, because if you let the map go truly split map, Oliveira will win, barring some insane misplay. Because the Terran late game, especially if they're able to reach that Ghost Mech, it is just better.
100%.
Zerg's job is to try and prevent that from happening by taking these other bases so that they can afford to be less cost efficient or potentially go for a killing blow, such as taking down that 5th planetary.
You got to go for one or the other, like you said. Why not go for both? You're doing good trades considerably, but you're still going to be behind on the trading. And on this map especially, those middle bases are so hard to take. The earlier you start mining them, the better. And Nuke does only do 500 damage, so it can't take out a hatchery on its own. But I feel like Reynor has been just a little bit slow to get those middle bases mining. And Oliveira has done such a good job of stabilizing. He's got 3 command centers finishing. Another Overseer comes in. No turrets on that right side to intercept, though. This is allowing Reynor to really utilize his speed. Oliveira is having to defend 2 places at once, and he's not got many units on the south. That's such an exposed part of his economy. SCVs in the open. Banelings are going to roll in. An orbital and a planetary getting blasted.
Yeah, this planetary barely going to go down as Ghost come in to save the day, and Oliveira is going to use this as an opportunity to strike on the top right side. He realizes he's taking a lot of damage back at home, so he needs to disrupt the economy of his opponent. But for Reynor, he's not really centralizing his economy. Look at the lurkers. They're already in the main base. We missed this. The Nidus Canal has popped in Oliveira's main, and now he has so many crises he needs to solve very quickly, lets his infrastructure fall.
Oliveira is a very aggressive player. He's really good at attacking. You can see his instincts take over there. He was out of position for the attack on the south, so he immediately counterattacked, but that left him open for this move. And that means he loses 31 SCVs, but he also loses southern position. Now his tanks have no support in the middle of the map. The Zerglings getting a fantastic trade. Nothing to counter the Zerglings. The tanks get cleared, and that Infestor just spotting everything. Beautiful play.
Another Nidus network pops in the triangle third here of Oliveira. That's going to be even more SCVs going down, and more than that, just as Pig was saying, this is another attack Oliveira needs to pay attention to. And look, there's even, I believe, creep being dropped either by tumors or just from the Nidus right here with these lurkers. It's going to be so hard for Oliveira to regain control of this position, and Reynor is doing an excellent job of keeping Terran contained. However, Oliveira is slowly getting back into this. He's taking the expansion back at 2 o'clock.
I think he should probably give up on the 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock's a mistake because it stretches you out even thinner. All you need to do is deny those resources. Right now, Oliveira is getting pulled into the trap of trying to match Reynor's pace. He needs to slow down as a player. He's still maxed out with a lot of command centers, but he has to get rid of the vision in the back. And because he hasn't got a Viking, nor does he have turrets on the edges, these oversteers are going to keep sneaking along the backside. And he's letting Reynor continue to do that, and that's been the big thing that's costing him. If it wasn't for those Niduses, I guarantee you Oliveira would have a much better defensive setup on the front. As it is, he's got a giant army. He can still come back in this game, but these changelings are just wreaking havoc.
The changelings are getting so much done as Reynor's trying to distract Oliveira here on the front line with Lings and Banelings flooding in. He will get pushed back by the main force, but that Nidus is about to pop in the natural expansion. Another lurker burrows.
Wow, this one doesn't have too much stuff inside. Nothing popping out just yet, but big fight on the front. Wow, Blinding Cloud Banelings getting some good connections. Reynor didn't have enough army to feel confident continuing with that engagement. And the counterattack comes over, which means another one of these middle hatcheries going down. Remember, Reynor's had a big economy for a long time, but he's not able to really mine any of the middle resources. The longer this goes, the more it's going to move in Terran's favor. It's already a 10,000 lost resources advantage for the Terran. The lurker's doing damage in the back. He's even in range of those SCVs on the low ground. If he starts shooting those, this is a big problem. Oliveira is getting pulled apart by Nidus Worms.
Oliveira needs to try to find a way to get in control of the situation, and losing even more siege tanks over here on the left side. These are the kind of losses that he can no longer afford. His bank has been depleted. He is down at 150 supply. Reynor, his bank, it's still flourishing, very close to max, multiple thousands of resources in the bank. Another Nidus network about to pop, and the natural expansion does get defused by siege tanks and by these Marines. And Oliveira, he needs to try and find a way to slow this game down and quiet it, because you see right there on screen the income advantage. It is huge right now for Reynor. He even went down from 95 drones all the way down to 80. That's a lot of because of Oliveira's aggression, but Reynor is making a conscious decision not to repopulate those because he wants to try and attack. And he might be setting up for a big play with this
Infestor. Could come in from behind that Infestor.
Look at the ghosts.
Yeah, if he gets the dual Fungal on that, that'll be huge. But the Infestor needs to be far enough away from the bio that doesn't just get shot straight away. Oh, no Hellbats, no Marines. Tanks and a few Widow Mines. Not going to be able to answer these Zerglings at any time you find those unsupported units. Those do so well. Abducting a couple of Ghost and Snipes to answer it. But I think still very good trades for a Reynor that is still relatively rich compared to Oliveira in this game.
Army supply is still very even, however. Reynor is getting a lot of damage done, but this is a dangerous position. Reynor only has about 500 minerals left in the bank. He's adding in another flood of about 60 lings, but the mining has been severely disrupted. Over there on the left side, you see some distance mining. At the top side as well, that hatchery hardly saturated at all. And should Oliveira take a strong fight with the kind of ghost that he has, he might be able to ride the momentum because Reynor has such a discrepancy between his gas and his mineral bank. He can't really repopulate. He needs to be able to survive and stay safe.
Reynor's not really mining off that top middle base, is he? And I think it might even be a misplaced hatchery. So you see he's finally transferred. It is a misplaced hatchery, but that's been not mining for minutes on end. And that southern base got denied, and it was blocked from being retaken by a Widow Mine. So yeah, Reynor's mineral income actually isn't ahead right now. You can see Oliveira's got 2 blue arrows. Now obviously that's mules in action. You drop a few mules, you're going to get ahead on the income, at least temporarily. But if Oliveira remaxes, it is scary for, as we've said, Reynor's resources will run out in the long run much faster. Now, he's still got a few minutes where he does have a lot more minerals available, but only a few minutes. Once those minutes are out, Oliveira is naturally in a stronger position. So Reynor's still got some real urgency here. Those changelings, good handling of it this time. I feel like Oliveira is really respecting those overseers and their changelings this time around.
Man, these infestors burrowed all over the map are so scary. Look at the full force of Reynor coming in here on the left side. He wants to sneak down this 5th base yet again and also prevent Oliveira from taking the 6th base at the 7 o'clock position. For now, he is successful, but keep in mind, Reynor, again, very minimal bank is another Nidus perhaps just like that Viper does in the main base of Oliveira. Another engagement coming in. Reynor is going to back off, and he needs to be careful. The upgrades are good, but look at the supplies. 187 to 170, but Oliveira with the army supply lead.
I'd love to see Reynor rotate to that northern base with a big wave of Zerglings, get on top of those tanks, or get up the middle. He's just going to try and bust the south, head-on collision. And a good trade, picks off a few tanks, pulls back. He's looking to really stretch out Oliveira's attention. Oliveira struggling to keep up with Reynor's pace. I mean, Reynor's pace on these Nidus worms. Talk about an annoying person to play against. He's just non-stop, giving Oliveira something to worry about. There's changelings coming in to scout ahead. And Oliveira, he's trying to keep pace right now, but Reynor is making it so very difficult.
I love that pop right there on the Widowmine and then coming back in. Not really giving Oliveira the anti-Ling shots that he needs from these splash damage units.
Another Nidus in the main. How many of these did you get advantage to? This is why I'm saying, like, a Viking.
Oh my god. I think
you've got to get a Viking off the turret stuff. At a certain point, this is so distracting. And to be fair, there's an argument that Reynor is spending 75 minerals and 75 gas each time. So, like, in the very long run of the game, Reynor's wasting a lot of money on this. But that's super long term, man.
This is the second time that Reynor's done this where he knows that the Nidus canals are getting defused by these siege tanks that are set up in the main base, the natural and the third. So now he's just flying the overseer over the siege tank and popping it in melee range. So it has to be assisted by bio, or it has to unsiege. It's just so funny as more Banelings now morphing in the base of Oliveira. The game quieting down a little bit here is going to allow both players to replenish their banks.
I'd really like to see Reynor bust that middle ridge planetary, because I think that area is Oliveira is so focused on the top right and the bottom left. I think if you bust the planetary on the middle high ground, you can actually just start running into the 3rd base, and that's so vulnerable. Ghost gets some snipes off. Lings do jump on top. There's more tank slibs and Ghost behind it, though. This is an angle where, like I said, I don't want Reynor to keep fighting here. He's got to rotate and hit the other areas, because on this map, if you get trapped into fighting head-on repeatedly on that ramp, it's going to go massively in Terran's favor. We can already see that. Not only is the base getting denied, but Unit's loss tab is getting better and better for Terran. Another Nidus worm gets shut down. Reynor's let Oliveira max out. And for a style that was meant to be inefficient, remember, he's mined almost nothing off the middle bases. He's only now starting to mine the right side middle base. He's just not able to get Nidus worms up anymore. He's still on Lingbane Hydra. He's got to find a way to trade effectively, which just is not happening. Oliveira is being so cautious.
It feels like Reynor is losing a little bit too much momentum. 15,000 resource discrepancy between these two players, and with Oliveira securing these additional bases in the bottom left after retaking the 5th and then going for the 6th, now suddenly he has a pretty substantial income advantage. For the first time, he is ahead in supply, he is ahead in bank. Oliveira, he might have weathered the 20-minute storm that was the aggression of Reynor.
Yeah.
And if he's able to take down a high-yield base like this one, fully saturated on minerals, Reynor is going to be in a world of hurt, Big.
I mean, Oliveira's been turtling since minute 7, basically. You know, it's been 15+ minutes of him just turtling up, sitting there defensively, getting to this position, but he's there now. He's got so many orbitals, he's got so many mules, he's still building more and more command centers, and he's hanging on very nicely, and Reynor seems to be running out of ideas at this point. This has always been the stage which Reynor hates playing. If it gets to this point where it feels a little bit of a stalemate, that's where Reynor starts to really struggle. And this was obviously Oliveira's plan from the start. I'm going to put you where you hate to play. This has been a big issue for you over the last few years. Everybody knows it because you publicly talk about how you hate playing these slow games. You like movement. You like action as Reynor. And he's just not able to get that going because it's just this Nidus worm move, which was working well earlier, but he has not been able to find the repeat value, and he doesn't seem to have another option.
A clutch infestor unburrow might be the Hail Mary that Reynor needs to come back in this one, because the army here for Oliveira is so strong. Watch this infestor on the left side. If he can get some kind of engagement, some kind of fungal on these ghosts and then collapse with all of the Banelings, all of the Hydras, there is a world where Reynor can bring this back.
He's got to make the play
set up
soon,
for it.
He's got to make it soon. He's got to go for it, but he gets scanned again. He's got to make that play at some point. He can't be sitting here just weathering this storm because he's losing these trades very badly. Anytime you're sitting on the edge of tanks and ghosts, it's terrible for Zerg. Movement and mobility is your advantage, but Reynor seems to be stuck in a bit of a corner right now. He feels like he needs to defend this base, but it's too late. He's got to go and blow up the bases of Oliveira. The longer he sits here, the harder this is going to get. Oliveira is grinding him down right now.
Yeah, more snipes coming in, and just look at this defensive position. Oliveira is locked in. The Ghost, they're basically even taking the forefront of the fight. All the Lings and Banelings going down. I think Oliveira might have just broken Reynor.
I cannot believe it. He let so many Nidus worms get up. Most players would crack under that pressure, but he refused to crack, and he gets game one on the back foot for over 10 minutes and refusing to crumble under the pressure. That was impressive.
That was one of the most impressive defensive TVZs I have ever seen. That was on the level of a Maru TVZ. The defense was resilient, and he did it in one of the most taxing ways possible, as you were saying, Pig. He didn't make the Vikings, he didn't set up the missile turrets, he didn't invest in all of that. He was using Army basically the entire time to defuse these dangerous situations Reynor was setting up for. And over the course of 10 to 15 minutes, he basically played the game where Reynor was just banging his head on a wall. And Reynor, with this high-octane economy, 90-plus drones, sometimes close to 100 drones, it felt like he was so close to breaking Oliveira, but Oliveira was just patient enough to weather the storm and get to this stage where once he finally secured that 5th base, got Kaiser's number 9 and number 10, and then the 6th base, and the mules rained down. He was able to build up the bank, build up the army, and attack the bases on the sides, and Reynor just fell apart.
I think at this moment it was going very well for Reynor. I think it was such a good game. But once he made the lurkers, I think the lurkers were decent in the Nidus worms. They didn't help too much on the front. And there was a moment at some point here where he stopped trading and he kind of pulled back for a moment. It felt like, well, this isn't working. I need to chill out. But I actually think if Reynor kept attacking and kept up the momentum, the fact that he'd done so much distraction with the Niduses and he was continuing, there was tanks in the main, the natural, the third, Ghosts as well. He was getting so much of Oliveira's army supply stuck there. Remember, Oliveira was not maxed for a long time. So I do think there was an opening if Reynor was almost more confident. More like, I'm just going to grab my whole army, smash into the north base. Remax, smash into the south base, and take a few kind of sloppy bad trades in there. But I think Oliveira was still in that build-up point, and you got to realize once the Terran gets up 10, 12 orbitals, once they have unlimited mules and they can just replace those command centers, remax those armies, it hits a point where you can't quite recover. You got to get them before those orbitals have paid off and before they've got that infrastructure set up. And I think Oliveira did such a good job of just speed running to that point, just surviving. And once he got there, you could see how drastically the trading changed, and it felt like Reynor was kind of helpless at the end of that game.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think if Oliveira goes for the same style of gameplay here in game number 2, Reynor, go for the same early game, go for the same aggression, go for the same high economy, and then use that momentum to break Oliveira before he becomes unbreakable. Let's see if he can do it. Spawning in the bottom right side, one of your foreign hopes, it is Reynor.
And his opponent, hailing from China, a player who has done such intelligent moves so far to allow him to play his comfort zone and stop his opponent getting any of that momentum. Let's see what he's got in store for game 2. In the top left side of the map, representing Dragon Kaiser Gaming, it's Oliveira.
So much support for Oliveira and the crowd, man. He has his own cheering section. That is amazing. And I love this guy. He shows so much passion for the game. You can see it when he wins any single match on stage. Like that game 1 versus Reynor, the headset comes off. He is living the moment. He is feeding on the crowd's energy. His fist is in the air. I mean, this guy is just electric. And what a stunning game number 1 here against Reynor. I want to see what he brings to the table here in game number 2.
Just a normal man, you know. That interview after that World Championship, I think, will be something most of us never forget. He just practiced like he'd never practiced before, adjusted his time zone to the tournament, something he regularly does now when he's traveling to events. So there's zero jet lag concerns, just does a little bit of a physical workout and then basically trains, studies videos, watches replays for the rest of his day, lives and breathes StarCraft. And I really feel like Oliveira traditionally was a timing attack player. He was good with multitasking, momentum, aggression, all those standard Terran traits. But how he has evolved to the point where he can play a game like that is so defensive, where he's saying, look, I know this might not be the thing that traditionally I'm the best player at, but this is the best way to take advantage of Reynor, and it worked just like clockwork. Beautiful play.
Like I said, it was a Maru-level defensive TBZ, and Maru makes it look easy, but it is not easy. There's very few Terran players in the world who can make a style like that work, and the fact that Reynor is just so against it.
Oh,
Need
6
to play
seconds.
to his advantage, and yeah, look at these slings coming in.
Why they pulled back though?
I don't know why
Oh,
they
the
pulled
Reaper
back.
is still there.
Did he catch it?
Yeah,
I wasn't
yeah.
sure because of the first-person view, but it seems like Oliveira has a pretty good idea of what's going on.
Yeah, he went SCV Scout. Really safe play, and because of that, he keeps the Reaper at home, so Reynor just keeps his Zerglings alive, says, look, if I go in there, I can deny the building time a little bit, but... Oh, he does go in. He's going to commit. He's just committing a bit later. Oh, the Reaper does survive. Oh, is that Command Center going to finish? No, the SCV has to pop off, and the Reaper and the Marine come to the low ground. Should be able to out-micro this. Oliveira, the 3 Zerglings coming in. You don't want to be losing that Reaper or that Marine.
What a hero, SCV. Give that SCV a medal. Give that SCV a medal. Look at those kills.
Wow. And he even shot the depot. He said, why was the door open? No, that was clean, dude. SCV getting a kill as well. 6 lings. Not a good opening for Reynor so far. Only a slight delay on the command center, whereas his hatchery was very delayed. And that really just ends up being a nice start for Terran.
And it's a really fast 3cc opener again for Oliveira, but this time a little bit of a different flavor. He's not going for the Hellions, instead going for the Cyclones, and only just now adding in the second gas, as well as the second barracks.
I wonder if he tries to sneak the Cyclones out. I know on this map, the Overlord can't quite see the edge.
Very
so you'll
close.
sometimes see the Overlord like just move off the pillar a tiny bit, and the Cyclones might try to sneak out that like northern to the right edge.
Yeah.
I think they usually get like a glimpse of it for like a fraction of a second, but will the Zerg actually be watching? Because obviously if the Zerg knows there's Cyclones, you just build a bunch of Speedlings, you can surround them, they're not that scary. But if they kind of catch you off guard, they can be quite annoying, picking off Overlords and just generally being a nuisance unit to deal with. It looks like Oliveira may have just made these as a general safety precaution though, because pull first often leads into like a 5 roach pressure. So they're not too bad of a unit to invest in. He actually even uses a scan to take out the Overlord, prioritizing information denial in this game.
Yeah, a bit of an expensive move there for Oliveira, but anything you can do to keep a player like Reynor in the dark, who is just so smart when it comes to reacting to information. He's very much like Cyril in that regard. I like that move for Oliveira. Anything you can do to try to make the game harder for Reynor to play.
And Reynor seems to have almost bought the bait a little bit. He's massing lings.
Yeah.
So he's got like a bunch of lings going for a counterattack. And then he's also just massing extra Zerglings at home rather than droning. So it feels like he's saying, okay, you're going to go for Cyclone Hellion pressure. I got to be safe against this, because it's almost always Cyclone Hellion. You never in this matchup see 2 Cyclones into 2 Barracks Marine, but that's exactly what Oliveira is doing. This is why he denied the Overlord. So now you got a Reynor who, if he knew what was happening, would go up to 60 drones really early, build very few defensive units. Now he's below the Terran in workers, which is a rough start for the Zerg.
Double engineering bay coming in at the same time as the evolution chamber, so at least Reynor won't be too far behind in that regard. They should be equal in step, at least through 2-2, if both players are on top of it. And I think Reynor right now might be catching wind, because those Hellions and Cyclones, they haven't presented themselves. Even the Ling coming in, scouts the engineering base, still sees those 2 Cyclones. Reynor isn't exactly sure what this could be yet, but I think he knows he got duped a little bit, because you see the drone count starting to really balloon right now. And now with a double medevac Marine, I mean, this is not the best feeling if you're Reynor.
No, not at all. He's been duped a little bit. Now, he should be fine with the Queens and the Zerglings at home. He's going to have to build a few more Lings to make sure he's safe. And there is 3 more barracks going down behind it. Oliveira's being very tricky, playing a very off-meta style. Hard for the Zerg to read. You never want to let a guy like Reynor just play against something that he's comfortable against. And Oliveira and prioritizing Reynor being just, uncomfortable, trying to throw him out of his element. This is just a smart way to play this whole tournament long. The last few tournaments, Reynor's looked a little bit more tiltable. He looks more upset when he loses games. He used to always have a smile on his face. Win or lose, he'd kind of be laughing, jamming out to his music. And I really feel like this is something Oliveira's clued into, and he said, let's just not let you feel confident. I can't let you be that vibing Reynor who's got his Italian rap music in his ears and he's just having fun. I need to make this as unfun for you as possible to win this series.
He's succeeded in doing that in game number 1 for sure. I mean, that was 10, 15 minutes of Reynor just absolutely in frustration, trying to kill a Terran that was so close to death but wouldn't die until the inevitable happened, and Oliveira grew too big, took over the map, and just won the game from that position. And now once again here for Reynor, I mean, losing the momentum and feeling a little bit duped like this, it's not the best feeling. He's still behind in workers to an Oliveira who is macroing up to 3 bases and continuing pressure like this on the left side. Transfuses coming in, will save that Queen. Oliveira should be able to get hot pickup after trading out these Marines for some Zerglings. And behind it, a lot more powering coming through. Second factory added in. Armory very early, perfectly timed for 2-2, although +1 armor just a touch late here for Oliveira. And I think he's keying in that Reynor really wants to lean heavily into this Ling Bailing style, because Widowmine production already being reactored out, and that second factory. Be a lot of anti-Ling AoE pig.
I love that choice. I really think that adds a lot of depth to your style. And Golden Ore is a map where it's really quite good to defend on 4 bases. Getting a 5th base is quite good. However, I do think the Zerg can quite easily take the corners if you turtle up. If you play like that last game, think about where those middle bases were on Oceanborn, and they're like right next to the 4th and 5th base of Terran. In this map, they're out in the corners. So I think if we end up in a similar sort of holding pattern where Oliveira with a fast forward command center seems to be wanting to go to a big macro game, that may be advantageous to Reynor. So far, just denying creep, looking for little trades, and doing a good job of not overcommitting. And Reynor also has done a great job of getting back into a good macro spot. I mean, you give Reynor an awkward opening. You make him take some damage. You make him misread the play. Two minutes later, he's back on 85 workers. He's ahead in supply, and he's just like got... Creep spread's not amazing. That's the one thing he's kind of missing. But I feel like his ability to recover is just so sick.
Drilling Claws now coming in as Widowmines are being produced 3 at a time. And even vehicle weapons getting researched here. If I'm not, or vehicle armor, excuse me, for Oliveira. So some tricky choices coming in. I love this engagement for Oliveira. These Widowmines should be able to get some pretty big value as he kites back away from the Lings, but Reynor defusing them quite well. Now recharging with the Banelings isn't going to be enough. Transfuses are buying time right now on the Queen. Banelings rolling in. The Widowmines are on cooldown, so he should be able to shoot Oliveira away for now. But oh, look at that focus fire. Wow.
Oliveira bringing out some of that old school Beyond style, just frustrating focus fire, poking in and out, letting those Marines get some good trades. And this is low risk pressure. Remember, at any point he gets in trouble, he picks up, he walks away.
Yeah.
But he's got a Liberator in the back as well. Where did that come from? Oh my gosh, Oliveira is flowing right now. Gets a couple of the Queens, pulls back there, only loses like 1 or 2 Marines in a medevac. The Liberator is dancing around, and Reynor struggling to keep pace with this. Is this going to do game-ending damage? No, but it's doing such a good job of slowing Reynor down while Oliveira races up to that 4-base setup.
Yeah, and he's using this to get an even better position on the map. These Widowmines burrowing could get really big hits on the Lings. Not the best one right there, but still good enough for Oliveira to rotate around to the other side of that 3rd base.
Still no Spore Crawler getting rid of the Liberator. That's still denying mining on that 5th. 101 drones for Reynor, though. 101 drones. Reynor is rich in this game. It's a style that he popularized many years ago, was going up to 110 workers, playing Lurker, Hydra, Ling, Bane. A return to that rich Zerg play here for Reynor, but his creep spread, not what we're used to seeing. He's still building more drones. He's actually going to go back to almost 110 workers. Wow.
Yeah, that's... Well, I mean, with the losses he's sustaining right now, he kind of needs that economy to keep fuel in the tank as Oliveira just unrelenting pressure. Look at that shot with the Widowmine. So many Lings going down. Cyclone even absorbing some of the impact right there on the Banelings. Not a bad trade for Oliveira, and the pressure on the right side and the left side is just unrelenting. He will not stop.
Biomine coming in. Those mines not getting the biggest shots, but it's just non-stop, as you said there, State. The Ling Bane is starting to go down. We're going to have to check in on that unit's loss tab at some point after these fights, because it really feels like Oliveira is not losing anything important. Just a few Marines and mines here and there, and Reynor is just stuck on the back foot, getting gunned down. The Biomine do take a bit of a Baneling hit there, and we've got still the drop unloaded on the left side, ready to come in again. Yet another good Widowmine shot, and there we go. 3,500 resource lost advantage. Yeah, you're down 30 workers, but does that really matter? I don't think you want that many more workers than this as the Terran. You'd rather max out on a bigger army. You've got Ghosts, Libs, +3 weapons on the way, 5th command center. The only thing, actually the 6th command center building, 5th one's already floating out. His +3 armor got forgotten for a little bit, but he's already noticed it. Oliveira is on point. He's just not getting carried away. A lot of people in this high pressure moment looking to qualify for that Esports World Cup, looking to get to the semi-finals as such a massive tournament here in Dallas. Would get excited, but Oliveira is cool, calm, and collected, and Reynor is unable to get him out of storm.
And Reynor, even with his 107 drone economy, just really can't muster the forces he needs to get maxed and actually take some good engagements here against Oliveira. I feel like every single trade is just Oliveira killing Reynor by 1,000 cuts. Now another fight coming in. Hydras have entered the field here for Reynor. That should be a strong backbone behind the Ling Hydra, or behind the Ling Bane, to try and hold on against this aggression. And that means that Oliveira, for the first time in a long time, not getting the best trades. Even that Ling dragging in the Widowmine shot to the bio. Very well played there by Reynor, but Oliveira behind all of this, I mean, the medevac count has ballooned to an extreme number. He's taken his 5th base already. Remember how hard it was for him to secure that 5th base in the previous game. He's even floating a 6th in, and I know you said that taking the 5th and the 6th base, it is a lot harder on this map than it is on the previous map on Oceanborn. But if you are able to secure it, especially if the Zerg goes for the gold base, which overall has less minerals than the blue base in the top right, it can be devastating for Zerg. I think if Reynor wants to win this game, he needs to control the bottom left and the bottom right at minimum.
And there's no mass orbital. This is not the same late game as the last one, right? This is, I'm going to take the bases and mine with high SCV count, but I'm just getting a big army. I'm keeping the pressure up. It's non-stop biomine pressure. Now with Libs and Ghost coming in, this is an unrelenting style where Oliveira is doing a giant macro push, and Reynor has such a high worker count. I don't know if he can get enough army up to clean this out. Hydra Bane running forward. The Hydras are getting pushed back. Remember those Hydras. 2-2, 3-2 stun for the Terran Bio. Oh, more units are coming around from the left there, looking to intercept any reinforcements. He does hold it back for now. And Oliveira looking to siege those Libs forward. Drop finds the bottom left base. The gold minerals are exposed. He's coming back on the north at the same time. The Banelings coming forward, but the Libs and the mines are going to defend.
Oliveira still just taking such good trades, and I think you hit the nail on the head right there with 100+ workers right now. Once Oliveira reaches these maxed armies, he's having a Reynor, I should say, is having a very hard time taking the cost-efficient trades that he needs. I believe he needs lurkers. He needs lurker range to really anchor the defense. Otherwise, I'm not sure how he stabilizes because it's now the 13-minute mark. Reynor, one of the best players in the world in terms of creep spread, if not the best, has been completely stifled on the map. Now setting his eyes on the 9 o'clock expansion. Will he be able to take that planetary out?
Oh, Baneling Hydra does catch it. Reynor finally gets a big opening here. And remember, Oliveira doesn't have mass orbital behind this yet. He's not as strong. Burrowed Banelings are there. They do detonate. Nice Burrowed Baneling move for Reynor. But he might have to give up this base, and indeed he will. He's going to abandon ship, move those drones to the bottom left side would be the way to do it. He's got a Nidus Worm on the way. Lurker upgrades coming in as well. Oliveira pushing forwards. Both sides are not that high on the bank. Oliveira slightly below max. Reynor is maxed out. He's getting a lot of Hydras. He's got to be wary. Too many Hydras can chew up your supply and they get kind of stuck behind each other. You've got to have enough Bane to actually force those Marines and Marauders to get out of there.
And now Oliveira pivoting into the main base, and then a little bit of hesitation instead, trying to decide where the best angle of attack is going to be. And my goodness, I mean, it's such a high medevac count. He can just choose to take the fight he wants to take.
Wow.
Look at the Ghost dropping in, snipes on almost every single Hydra. This base gets denied here by Oliveira, and at the same time, this squadron moving down into the bottom left side should be able to take out the gold base unless Reynor has lightning fast reactions. The triangle third once again getting denied as Oliveira with what looks like on the board a relatively small force is just everywhere. Look at the mobility.
Wow, the way Oliveira is playing this from super turtly on Oceanborn on a small map to on the big map playing a faster, more mobile, pushing style. And Reynor purely defensive. For a player who's known for his aggression, his speed, and his micro, Reynor has been playing a very defensive style, and he hasn't quite been able to really be like saying, hey, I'm running into your base and blowing your workers up here. I'm attacking over there. The Nidus Worms are finally going to start trying to go up, but Oliveira is so aware of it. The Changelings do get in though. 3 Changelings splitting between the bases. That's going to be a big playmaker later on.
Yeah, if Reynor is able to make that happen, I think he really needs a win like a Nidus Canal in the main base to disrupt the flow that Oliveira is in, because there is so much momentum behind Terran right now. Equal on bases with the Zerg with additional command centers means that his income is going to be miles ahead of Reynor's, and already the cost efficiency is just through the roof right now here for Oliveira. I mean, once again, this army, look at it, 126 supply, only 74 SCVs, Widow Mines, Ghost Liberators. Reynor trying to go for the engagement, but he's not getting the connections he needs with the bio. And now the snipes coming in on the lurkers. One of them already falling there in the front line. Another one falling. Yeah, there's no oversteer. He can't stop it.
Oh no, the Cloak Ghosts are ruining him, Reynor. His lurker defense got out. He's got lurkers on the other side of the Nidus Worm. That could be a playmaker, but he's got nothing at home to defend. Okay, Lings do come forward. Parasitic bombs are big. The Zerglings getting on top of the overly stim bio. Nice move for Reynor. He won't be able to take it out on this first move. He needs a remax, but he's out of cash. Oliveira has more money in the bank. Reynor desperately trying to jump on top. He needs to get more defenses up. Not having detection for that previous round of Ghost and Snipe is a big, big problem.
And now Oliveira in the main base is cleaning up the whole attack. Liberator sieged up as well as Ghost and Widow Mines. All the reinforcements from Oliveira's infrastructure is being dedicated to stopping these lurkers. And for right now, Reynor, he does have a little bit of momentum back on his side. He was able to defuse the situation. He's even potentially going to take down the Ghost Academy here. Another Nidus Canal pops in the natural expansion. That's going to allow 2 lurkers to come in and cause even more problems. But my worry here for Reynor is the bank. Reynor simply doesn't have the economy. He's on a 4-hatch eco.
That's
the gold base and the triangle third are only just now being replenished.
Yeah, that is such a big problem, isn't it? I mean, he's rebuilding them. He's got 70 workers, but every lurker he pops out here, he's kind of dripping units into a point where it's going, I'm distracting you. but he's not really killing much. What do you get? A few more SCVs, put a few buildings on fire. If he was killing bases at the same time, that would be worth it. But I feel like the last few Niduses and Lurkers there, they basically fed value to Oliveira. He's still got command center in the north. He's still got very good mineral income. You can see those little blue arrows in between both of their minerals on the bottom of your screen. That does tell you the income advantage. Sure, Reynor's got a massive gas advantage. That does not matter. They're both running low on minerals. The Lurker Hydra Viper push, this is so important. If you can get that command center, that'd be big.
Yeah, Reynor needs to win right now. Oliveira's bank is too high. Abduct's coming in on the Liberators. One of them going down. The second one also going down. Parasitic Bomb also huge. Able to get a lot of damage. At the same time in the picture-in-picture. See the Lurkers on the right side. Taking down the Planetary. If they can stop that from the repair, it will be huge for Reynor. He's getting the wins on the map that he needs.
Dude, I thought Reynor was pretty much done for in this game. But he shows what we always know Reynor has, and that is fighting spirit. There's a reason we call him the Italian Stallion, because he fights from behind all the time, and he always shows us that attitude, that ability to make comebacks. A player who's renowned for fighting back when things get tough. Ling, Bane, Hydra, Lurker coming in, abducting the Libs at every turn. Those Liberators are just not getting any value now because the Vipers keep taking them out. The Lurkers don't have an answer. There's no Ghost here with energy.
God, what is the ghost count right now? Do we even have enough to get on the field to stop this push in the natural expansion? There's only 3. And Oliveira, who just a moment ago had this massive bank, it has been completely exhausted trying to handle this, and Reynor has somehow miraculously, with this attack on the bottom left and the top right, taken the momentum away from Oliveira and almost even tied up the resources lost in a blink of an eye.
Yeah, I mean, this was huge. The Viper usage against the Libs has stacked up so much value over the last 2 minutes. They have taken so many Libs out of siege mode. The Hydras are just taking them down so simply. What beautiful play. And the Widow Mines are starting to recharge. No oversteer on the front line. You've got to be a little careful of that. But if he can defend this attack at home, that's all that matters. The Ghost gets shredded. The Banelings, the Hydras hold. And Oliveira unable to finish that one off. Reynor fighting back from behind and avoiding a 0-2 position that would have been nigh impossible to come back from. That was an impressive win.
I thought Reynor was dead to rights, Pig.
Yeah.
After that, those Niduses popped in the main base in the natural expansion, I was thinking, you know what, Reynor, there is no way. Time isn't on your side. Oliveira has the bank. Oliveira has the superior economy. Oliveira has the map position. And then in one fell swoop with that attack at the 9 o'clock base, at the 12 o'clock base, Reynor is able to make magic happen. It's like he pulls victory out of thin air. If he doesn't make that move at that instant, this game is done. He is down 0-2 in this best of 5, but he just has that game sense to go for it. The one moment, the one opportunity, and he seizes it, rides it to a victory. What a come from behind win.
Yeah, a few more minutes, and think about how much Ghost energy there would have been. You know, if you delay those fights, those Ghosts that bank in energy, you're going to have those extra bases mining. You're going to have drops start to find the Zerg worker lines. And yeah, it felt like such a vicious counterattack. And even then, when, of course, you know, Oliveira came across the map, this push looked like it might break him, but out of medevac energy, that was a clutch hold right there. The second wave of Zerglings overwhelmed, and then this counterattack to the other side. And the Libs we see in small numbers, Libs aren't good. If you can EMP the Vipers, the Libs are amazing. But there weren't any EMPs ready for the Vipers. There was no snipes ready for the Lurkers. And we see that Lurkers are a siege unit. If they get in between your bases, you don't have the answer to them. Man, things start to spiral out of control. Really nice comeback for Reynor on Golden Aura.
Yeah, but it's a little bit concerning about the rest of the series for me, because for a long time during that game, Oliveira did seem like he was in control, and it was a very different style from what he showcased there in game number 1, as you said. On Oceanborn, he played slow, he played defensive, 10, 15 minutes of just being this iron wall. And then in game number 2, so explosively aggressive. I can't wait to get into this map on site Delta. Here, spawning in the bottom right after a miraculous victory, tying the series 1-1. Give him your energy, he needs it. It is the Basilisk Zerg, Reynor.
Meeting some resistance in game 2, but still looking overall fantastic. He's going to go onto a big, wide open map. We might see a similar style again from him here. It would suit this map very well. In the top left side, your reigning world champion, Dragon Kaiser Gaming's Oliveira. If I was Reynor, I would also be worried. State, I love the way you put that. Both of those games were going really not in the direction he wanted. And if I was him, I think I'd put on that Italian rap music. He does seem to be singing to himself. So that's number one. Step one, get in your groove. Step two, build Mutalisks. Step three, don't let him get to 4 and 5 bases. Like, just play a little bit of a dicier build, getting that win so you're not on match point, you know, you're not about to be defeated. Do something a little riskier here. Get the Mutalisk, get the mobility game, because we know that, honestly, who can match Reynor when it comes to mid-game multitasking? If you get a lot of movement and counterattacks going, Reynor is second to none. Clem might be one of the only players who can really match him in that sort of speed game. The weird reason, you might be looking at this and saying, what are you talking about? Oliveira was all over him. Yeah, that's because Reynor was playing purely defensive. All he did was make like 100 drones and sit in his corner of the map. There were no Ling Bane run-bys. It wasn't until the Nidus worms came out that Reynor started doing things. And at that point, Oliveira had a lot of defensive kind of static up planetaries and tanks. I want to see Reynor really take this game by the horns and try to take Oliveira out or put the pain on him earlier. Maybe a Massling Bane style of just 3 or 4 gases, but really get in Oliveira's face and punish him. When he's on your side dropping, run Banelings into those worker lines. I don't think you can be purely defensive against a guy as good as Oliveira. We've seen how hard those first 2 games were.
And Site Delta being a map with so many different pathways you can run those Lings and Banelings across, I think is the perfect one to do it on. It is difficult to take those ulterior expansions on the other side of the map. It's hard to go up to 4 or 5 bases here as Terran, much harder than on Oceanborn, much harder than on Golden Aura. And so for Reynor, I think I'm right there with you. If he gets a lot more aggressive, if he leverages that 90+, 100+ drone economy into pure aggression and tries to punish the greed of Oliveira, I think he absolutely has a chance to end this game far before Oliveira is comfortable, because Oliveira right now in the late game, he feels like he is firing on all cylinders. He was very close to winning game number 2. In game number 1, there were moments where it was scary for him, but they were in the mid game. They were not in the late game. And so for Reynor, I think either in the mid game, you come in with the aggression, you go for the kill early on, or in the late game, if you get to 110 drones, you got to spend all those resources on going for the kill. Do not let Oliveira build this army that he's been assembling from game 1 to game 2.
Indeed. We're going to see how Reynor addresses the problems he's run into. Do the same, do it better, or does he change up tack and try to mix it up? For now, Oliveira is playing a very straight up 3 CC, 3 command centers. He's got Hellions on the way. Does look like he's going to swap over to Banshee production as well. And it kind of reminds me of the fact that, remember, he opened this, but he did Cloak, and he also went for Hellbats in game 1, but didn't really commit to it. Looks like Fake Cloak this game is the name of the game. He's upgrading Interference Matrix because it is the cheapest upgrade, 50 minerals and 50 gas. So if an Overlord comes in, he sees the upgrade and goes, oh, you're making Cloak. And then Reynor makes Overseers, he makes Spores, he builds extra Queens. Meanwhile, this is a defensive Banshee. You might go in, pick off a drone or 2, but you're not actually really committing. This is just a move to kind of get a bit of air control. Yeah,
and I love him canceling it, spending that money on other resources, on other things that cost resources, and then restarting it as that Overlord is coming into the main base. And Reynor, he's going to come in. Will he get duped? Will he start it again? Interference Matrix? But now's the time for the fake. It is a little bit too late. I'm not sure if Reynor is going to be falling for that one. If he was paying attention, he would have seen that that tech lab was not upgrading at the moment. It should have been upgrading.
Indeed. Did the first Banshee already come out?
Yeah, he just popped.
Okay, so he is making 2 Banshees. Stim does start up there. And of course, now that the Overlord's gone, you can cancel Interference Matrix for good, but he cancels it and restarts it. That's odd. I guess just in case the Zergling runs into your base.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy, actually.
This is really weird. He's like, no. I'm going to swap to Ravens, and I need to be able to Interference Matrix those Vipers 23 minutes from now in the late game. Okay, State? Pig, you guys don't know what you're talking about. I figured out the meta.
Watch him start it up again. Come on, do it. You know you want to. You know you want to, Oliveira.
I like making the tech lab go all bubbly. That's all.
Well, double engineering bay coming in. 3rd command center already planted at the triangle 3rd here for Oliveira as the Hellions now approaching the 3rd base here of Reynor, looking to get some damage done. They are able to stop these creep tumors and slow Reynor down a little bit. In the meantime, Reynor, it looks like he is going to find this 3rd command center, perhaps not just yet.
Indeed. Hellions are rotating around. Banshee's trying to clean those Zerglings up. Tanks on the way. So it's going to be tanks for Oliveira. No surprise on this map. I mean, this map has some lovely tank positions. There are ledges all over the place and these kind of little high grounds and rocks you can tuck them behind. Double Evolution Chamber's a bit greedy for Reynor, and I like that. I like greedy play. I like get your fast upgrades, you know, go real smooth explosion into the macro situation. It doesn't look like a Miraculous build for me, which I'm a little disappointed with, but like I said, the other thing I'd like to see from him is a 4-gas mass Zergling play, where you stop at maybe 70 drones, you just massling Bane, and he comes across with Marines, you roll Banes into the natural in the third at the same time, you just look to overwhelm. You kind of wait for the Terran to push out with those pressures and you punish them for it, and so far, 73 drones, mass Zerglings, it's looking like Reynor is getting set up for potentially that sort of game.
Yeah, 4 gases, Baneling speed now coming in, a ton of Lings flooding out on only 73 drones. I think he might be playing that. Another hatchery coming in as well, as Reynor's going to have a lot of larvae to work with. And Oliveira now moving across the map. He's adding in the armory to get 2-2. Siege Tank's continuing production right now, and for the first time, moving out with this bio. Small group of Marines, couple of medevacs securing the middle, but look at the creep spread here in game number 3. Compare this to game 1, compare this to game 2. The Hellions didn't really accomplish the same job they did with other units in game 1 and game 2. Reynor has a pretty healthy spread of creep on site delta, which again, with all these different pathways, it's hard to get a good creep spread going on this map. It requires a lot of APM, it requires a lot of queen energy.
It's actually so labor intensive, man.
Yeah,
like,
this is one of the hardest maps to really do it on.
The number of screens you have to go across to spread all those tumors, it actually does take a fair bit more attention than say on Oceanborn, but it's going to be spreading that creep pretty well. You know, he's respread it in the north where he got slowed down before respreading in the south immediately. Up to 78 workers now is Reynor, but you can see not much trading going on yet. The unit's lost tab still very dry, as this has been a slower paced style for Oliveira, not committing as much to the aggression. Those Banshees are more of a defensive unit than anything else. You don't really want to lose those, especially without a cloak. And then we go Burrow and Hive. Okay, so Reynor's not going to go for the counterattack style, but he is going to rush up to Hive. I'd love to see an Ultra transition. We don't see it very often. I do feel like if you get it early enough, it can work really well, but I would imagine Vipers, Adrenal Glands, not to mention getting 3-3 is huge. Speaking of which, Reynor has got 1-1, but he's forgotten his 2-2 for a moment, and he will need to get a move on with that because Oliveira's starting to push. Oliveira's got a massive Marine tank and a 4th commander in the building, but this army is scary.
I'm not sure he forgot it. I think he might be afraid of this push. I think he might want to spend those resources on Banelings right now, and I love this counterattack coming in. As the Blighting Boat Wall is not up. The Lings are flooding. Siege Tank also getting in position on the natural. Now look at these Banelings finding relatively good connections at the third base, but Oliveira's standing army is still a little bit too much. Drones are going to have to evacuate from the triangle third, and this is one of the reasons why I think Reynor doesn't want 2-2. He is all hands on deck trying to stop the tide of Hellbat's Banshees. Siege Tanks and all these Marines flooding in. Wow. Oliveira's army in the front door is huge, but do not forget the counterattack is massive. 43 SCVs have fallen, the number continuing to go up. Oliveira's economy basically decapitated here. He needs to win with his push.
Absolutely. This is a very intense moment right now. Oliveira has an amazing position, though. He's got ramp control, but if he goes too far forward and those Banelings connect, it's going to be a bad time. Look at this. Baneling nest going down, but he's already restarted it. Reynor is on point right now. Look at this spread he's setting up. He's got a flank going around the left and the north at the same time. Oliveira's reinforcements cannot get to the front. He's trying to move through the middle, but I don't think he's going to get there because he's got to walk across creep to reinforce, and Reynor's going.
Yeah, the flank coming in on both sides. Reynor sandwiching this army with Ling, Baneling, finding connections on everything Oliveira has. Submarines, the reinforcing Marines do survive. This might be enough to continue pushing forward.
The immediate unload was beautiful. Oliveira says, you just used up all your Banelings, mate. And he shoves in decisively. Reynor's trying to run away. The drone's trying to get out. He just doesn't have any Banelings. 14 Banelings and 30 Zerglings building. Reynor has 80 drones, but oh gosh, he's got no Baneling nest now. His queen's trying to hold on as best they can. The Banelings trying to rebuild. Oliveira might only have 20 workers, but he is obliterating Reynor's economy.
Reynor's economy is in shambles right now, but so is Oliveira's. If Reynor can find a way to stabilize with Baneling hits like these ones, there is a chance for him to come back, but still Oliveira, although this army is very injured, it's so hard for Reynor to deal with in this position, and that's it. GG. Reynor knows he cannot stop the force. The counterattack from Reynor, absolutely massive, but Oliveira persevering with a push to the front is going to bring it to match point.
Wow, what a push from Oliveira. And Reynor committed a lot to that counterattack, and it got value. It got so much value. It really did put Oliveira deep in a hole, and he did shut down the army, or it seemed like he did with the flank. But then, of course, Oliveira's reinforcements arrived. He immediately redropped the Marines that he saved on the first volley. And what a great way to push forward. The fact that Oliveira did all this, by the way, the first fight against the Banelings, pulling back, spreading, moves forward, sieges again, multiple fights against Reynor while he was losing every SCV in his natural and his third. That's really important. And something we didn't see in the replay, but when the Lynx first came in, I don't know if you noticed this, there was a siege tank popped out. It was on the ramp, and he instantly sieged it, and it created a full wall off. And that actually bought him so much time to get Marines out. If more Lynx got onto his production, Oliveira very well may have lost this game.
Oliveira just performing so well under pressure in these clutch moments. Despite having no economy, he had mustered just enough army to take game number 3. And Reynor, I love the style that he went for. The counterattack was absolutely massive, but just a little bit too greedy with the expansions, with the droning. Did not have enough to stop a push that Terran, it felt like, was building up to the entire game. So many Hellbats, so many Banshees, siege tanks, and just a wave of Marines. And now Reynor, he has no room left to make mistakes. If he wants to find his way into the semifinals to fight the winner of Shin versus Serral, he needs to start the comeback right now.
It's going to be a real road to recovery here. I thought I loved that style for Reynor. I mean, the Ling Bane going for the counterattack so briskly. It's not like he hesitated. Sometimes players get forced into a corner and they go for the counterattack. He went for it very quickly, but Oliveira, mate, just so quick on the tank siege, spreading Marines deep on creep. How many times have we seen a Terran in that position? They feel forced to stim deep on creep. All the Marines get hit by a few Banelings and suddenly it's lights out. Not so for Oliveira. What decisiveness under pressure. And he keeps on finding ways to get underneath Reynor's skin. I feel like on paper, you look at the stats of these two players, Reynor's a little scarier in the matchup, but somehow Oliveira just keeps finding his weak spots game after game.
All right, here we are on Alcyone, match point. And this player right here, the Red Zerg, needs your energy if he's to continue this run in the playoffs of DreamHack Dallas. Representing Basilisk Gaming, it is Reynor.
And in the top right side of the map, representing Dragon Kaisi Gaming. What a beastly run so far. He just needs one more game to secure that spot in the semifinals. In the top right side of the map, everybody give it together for your reigning world champion, Oliveira. Luckily gets one of the longest reigns of any world champion, as we do have an exceptionally long gap between seasons this year around. It's been kind of nice for him to get about a year and a half, 18 months at the top before he does potentially get dethroned or gets the back-to-back.
I wonder what kind of opening we're going to have from Oliveira. He's shown a variety of different styles in every single game. Game 1, slow and methodical. Just playing as defensively as possible, really, on Oceanborn and weathering the storm of Reynor's non-stop attacks on a, 95+ drone economy for minute after minute after minute. And then in game number 2, he turns that on its head. He doesn't play mass orbital. Instead, he invests those resources into army. He brings the fight to Reynor. And once more, on site Delta coming through with this insane timing attack of Hellbat, siege tanks, even the early game Banshees, culminating with a swarm of Marines able to kill Reynor in these last final moments in such a close battle. What is he going to bring here on Alcyone? I'm kind of leaning towards another push pig. Because here on Alcyone, if you're able to control the middle, which I think against a player like Reynor who is exceptional with the creep spread, you often want to do, lest it go out of control. That often leads very well, especially in the Korean meta, to a siege tank push, hammering down the third base that can very quickly spiral out of control for the Zerg.
Hit that 8 racks. I mean, I think we were watching actually, I can't remember who it was Zerg vs Terran series. I think Reynor was actually watching it with us and he was going, look, Alcyon, you know, 8 racks, it's going to happen. And indeed, the Terran 8 racks on this map with the big Marine tank push, and it was doing really well in that series. So I think it's something Reynor is very aware of on this map because it is such a strong strategy. And the way to dissect that, probably going to be more Ling Bane counterattacks, you know, but just being picture perfect on his defense at the same time when the Terran shoves forward, because it's just scary, man. Once they get that watchtower, it gives you such good center control on this map, and you can branch off from that in many different directions. So I think you've called a very solid strategy. It might be like, oh, well, if we're predicting it, if Reynor has talked about it being good on this map, surely it's not that good. But no, sometimes strategies are just that good that it's still worth doing, even if it's a little predictable.
Yeah, the siege tank positioning can be so clutch. And also the way that Oliveira is building up in these games, he's playing a little bit greedier than your typical Terran would, especially a Terran coming out of Asia in the GSL. You almost always see the 2 barracks on the low ground. Oliveira, no, he just goes 1 barracks. He gets to the factory faster to control the creep spread much more quickly here against Reynor. He gets his 3rd command center faster as a result as well. His economy is on fire in the early game. And there was a stretch where me and Tasteless were casting, it felt like every TVZ for a period of almost a year. Half the games were these 3CC builds into siege tank pushes on 8 racks.
Yeah.
Just like you're saying. And this is the best map for it. Oliveira is doing one of the best openings for it in terms of greed. And I'm just wondering if that's going to be in the cards here. But especially not get too far ahead of ourselves.
Well, especially if he doesn't go cloak. I'm really with you. Like when he skips cloak, he does like to do that to then hit a timing push a little bit sharper, right? And he's a big fan of skipping cloak. He did it against Reynor back when he won that World Championship. He talked about it in his interviews afterwards. He said he copied this off Innovation, an old Innovation build, he said, where you skip cloak, and it just gives you that little 100 minerals and 100 gas. He says it doesn't seem like a lot, but often the Zerg ends up reacting the same. They still build spores, they still make a lot of defense, and you still get to use the Banshees as a defensive unit. And that's often their main use, right? Stopping Ling run bys, denying a few creep shimmers on the edge, but never overcommitting with them. And what I like is like you don't get lured into overcommitting. You don't have cloak, so you're not tempted to just dive in a worker line and be like, oh, there's no spore, let's go. And then you lose both Banshees and you're like, well, that was bad.
Yeah, and oftentimes in those pushes, as we saw in the previous game, just a handful of Banshees, 1 or 2, paired up with the siege tanks, it adds a lot of firepower. It's good at taking down Bailings, it's good at taking down Lings. It gets a lot of damage done, and now with Oliveira adding in the double engineering bay, I'm curious to see whether that siege tank production is going to begin, because those double engineering bays, the 1-1 timing leading into a 2-2 timing, it's often the time that you're going to be looking for Terran to get more aggressive. And look at this, 4 barracks in production.
Reynor going for a pretty quick layer there. We haven't really seen too much else in terms of the follow-up other than the fast 4th base. It looks like, yet again, another very macro-centric play, but oh, the first big diversion. We see a Roach Horn in the production tab. So Reynor is thinking of playing that Roach Ravager into macro style. Now, this is a style where the Roach Ravager is really good for holding off like an early 8 racks, any sort of overly committed fast push, but the weak point is when you're maxed out.
I love this Banshee just trying to get as much damage as possible to set up for the second Banshee on the right side.
There's no way.
But yeah, this is not going to happen. A little bit too ambitious is Oliveira. Now that will bring the Queens out of position, Pig, but look at how many Lings we have for Reynor. What a nice surround on the Hellion, dealing a lot of damage.
Looked like a misclick, but it actually worked out really well for Oliveira. I was like, oh no, AFK Hellions, you know, he's away from his keyboard, he's not watching, but actually worked out pretty well. Losing 1 Banshee, not the end of the world. The 1-1 upgrades are on the way for range, which means Reynor's committing quite a bit. Now, he could, if he wants, commit to the old 1-1 Roach timing. The reason we think that's pretty unlikely is that production tab's already telling us this man wants a quick hive. He wants to go back into Banelings after +1 range, probably gets melee upgrades, Banelings, goes towards, you know, all of that more standard style. And the Ravages, the Roaches, it's just a way to hold on against the threat of the 8 racks Marine tank push.
Oh, we even have Tunneling Claws coming in here for Reynor. I love this against the style that Oliveira is playing, because should Oliveira go for the siege tank push in the middle, these Tunneling Claw Roaches are so good at causing mayhem on the Terran side of the map, but already the Hellion's coming through.
He's not building a 4th and 5th reactor. Oliveira is incredibly committed right now.
Yeah.
He's cut worker production already. This is the spirit push right here. It's a fake 3rd command center. Queen's trying to hold the front line. The Roaches don't have roach speed. The Ravagers are still in low numbers. Rain is caught with his pants down. What a surprising push from Oliveira. This is getting in there and it's getting so much damage. The Queens are all down. Reyn is in massive trouble. He biles the tank. It finally falls, but there's no answer to those Marines.
And now 1-1 is finished here for Oliveira. He saw his opportunity. He took it even before the upgrades were done. And Reynor losing a lot of production right now. 9 more Roaches in production. Should start to step the tide, but it might be a little bit too late. These drones really have nowhere to run. More Queens and Roaches reinforcing for the left side. This bio is so low on HP. Matter of fact, getting focused now by the Queen finally falls. Oliveira was not able to break him, but that's still a lot of damage dealt.
Wow, I can't believe it. I mean, this is such a Reynor-esque thing. To be so greedy, to go 6 hatcheries, 5th base on the gold, macro hatch, hive, and double upgrades, and to 75+ workers, and to still hold against the 53 worker timing. No one else can do this. We've always talked about Reynor being famously greedy. And the thing is, I don't even know if greed's the right word, because if you always get away with it, it's not greed if it can't be punished, is it? That is the clutch ability to hold on that only Reynor is able to show.
Yeah, now he's going up to what soon will be about 85 drones. Hive halfway complete. Roach speed and research. Tunneling Claws, again, is on the board, so we might see Roaches start to move across the map as soon as Reynor stabilizes back at home. And Oliveira, he needs to try and find some damage with drops like these. He spots the gold base. He knows that Reynor's economy is going to be out of control, but the thing is, he just lost so much firepower in the middle of the map. Look at the income advantage. I don't know if Oliveira can really punish this.
That was such a big push. He wanted to make it look like a standard build, right? It's like, I got my 5 barracks. I'm not even building reactors on my 4th and 5th barracks. I'm just going for the throat, mass unit production, let's go, go, go. And, you know, he's got the 8 racks now. He's going to follow up with a big 3-based all-in attack. It does still find potentially a weak point at a Hive Tech where Reynor's so high on drones. He's got a lot of supply in Roach Ravager. He's having to rebuild his queens. His creep spread's not amazing, but the Vipers, the Ling Bane as it grows, the massive income advantage, I mean, especially with that gold base going, this does feel to me like Reynor is so far ahead after holding that he should be able to pretty much just A-move Oliveira's army when it moves out, swarm over it, and destroy.
I don't feel like Oliveira is going to have enough time to build the army that he needs to stop Reynor before all of these upgrades kick in, before the Vipers get high in energy, before the Ultras come out on the field, as the Ultras Cavern just got planted down, halfway complete. And should those pair up with +1 Adrenal Lings, Banelings with speed, Blinding Cloud on the siege tanks, I don't know how you take the fight as Oliveira with such an unrefined army, but this is the one opportunity Oliveira has to make it happen before any of those upgrades are complete, and he is stepping forward. All of the Banelings get canceled. He might have found the timing pick.
Oh, where are the Banelings? Reynor being so greedy, he should not fight. Reynor has to just run away, make Banelings, and be patient. He's got such a massive worker advantage. He can afford to give up a base or 2. He's just got to make those Banelings, which he's not making too many. 16 are done. He's got 5 more morphing. If he can get on top of the Marines, this could be a game changer. The bio is already triple stimmed. It's so wounded. It's deep on creep. Oliveira goes for the throat, but the Blinding Clouds cover his siege tanks. Most of the Marines do go down.
Liberator sieging right now on top of the Roaches and Ravagers, trying to stop these units from breaking this position. It seems like Reynor is barely getting a hold of the reinforcements, streaming in for Oliveira, attacking the gold base. Reynor might be sustaining too much damage, Big.
He's just lost 3 hatcheries. 3 hatcheries go down. You got 75 drones, but nowhere to mine from. He's not mining in that top left base. Oliveira is at double the army supply. Oliveira with a brutal round 2. And Reynor was simply being too greedy, not having any Banelings pre-morph, going to 95 workers on 6 bases. He was going for Vipers, Adrenal Glands. He was trying to get every single piece he could in the game. He was trying to have his cake and eat it too. And Oliveira with round 2 of a desperate all-in. And it was an all-in. I mean, he's just started his 4th command center. This had to kill Reynor, and I can't believe it. It actually found the mark. Oliveira, a mixture of passive, turtley, slow play in game 1 and also game 2, but then super decisive timing attacks in game 3 and game 4. Not to mention this one. This is brutal play.
Oliveira on the brink of destroying Reynor here and finding his way into the top 4. Reynor is fighting for his life, but I mean, the writing, it feels like it's on the wall. It's only Roaches and Lings in production. Reynor does no longer have the economy to sustain what he's been building up to this entire time. He can't get the Ultralist out. He can only afford 1 Infestor. He only has 1 Viper on the field and cannot afford to get more. This bio stimming forward is going to stream through all these Lings, and I think Oliveira might have done it.
Here we go. Big Blinding Cloud does land, but there's no units doing damage for the Zerg. And the good game well played comes out. Oliveira. Sweet, sweet victory for the Decisive Terran.
Oliveira